The following podcast is brought to you exclusively by the Rad Rob Radio Network. Imagine a place where mental health, resilience, sports, and the power to never give up all come together. This show is about life. It's about mental health. It's about bouncing back stronger than ever. This is Reset and Rise to the Unbreakable with Amanda Moore.
Hey guys, welcome back to Reset and Rise to the Unbreakable with Amanda Moore. I am your host, Rad Rob, along with the incredible Amanda Moore. Good evening, Amanda. Thanks for being here. This is going to be a tough one.
Yeah. Good evening. Yeah, this is going to be a tough one, but at the same time, I think, like I told you earlier, it could possibly help somebody who's either struggling now with something or has not wanted to reach out to somebody. So it may help them have, I guess, a little bit more strength or empower them to reach out to somebody if they're needing some help. So I hope that we help somebody out there. That would be great. So that's the object.
This week we are talking about suicide and suicide awareness and mental health awareness. And it's obviously a topic that has impacted probably just about everybody in one way or another. It's not something that anybody ever usually wants to talk about. So that's what we do here in the show is we talk about the hard things to hope to get people, get through their grief if they're still grieving or, inspire them to not take that road themselves. We touched on it in the first episode during your life introduction. But let's kind of set the tone for the show and talk about your dad. Okay.
So my dad committed suicide by a gunshot wound to the head when I was 5. He served in the Navy. He was in the Vietnam War. He was dishonorably discharged. He was diagnosed manic bipolar disorder and manic depressant. I don't really know a whole lot of what led up to the entirety of his suicide. I know he had some personal issues in his personal life with my mother. He was drinking. I think there may have been some drug use at some point in time or substance abuse when he returned. So then fast forward, you have me and my sister, and then my half brother. If you watched the first podcast, you know about that. My sister committed suicide in 2019. I would say that's the picture of the last time I saw my sister. I went out there and took a trip and everything seemed fine. That was hard. So my dad, it took me a long time to get over his death. My mom did not tell me the truth about my dad until I was 16. She told me with her twin sister, on the river dike in Clinton, Iowa, where I'm from. So I never knew how my dad really passed until then. And at that point, a little while later, I was given some pictures of my father. I was given bowling stuff of my father's because he was a pretty good bowler. He was a writer like me, so he wrote poems a lot. Then I was given 2 letters. One letter he wrote a month before he passed, and one he wrote when he passed. That was eerie of like a suicide note, but it was kind of cryptic, if you'd say. So for years, I held on to all of that. My sister was given some of my stuff of my dad's too, which has since been lost. My sister happened to move around a lot. She'd leave stuff places or just forget about it. So I held a lot of resentment towards my sister for a lot of years for that. So I would say probably 30 years it took me to finally come at peace with my father's death. And for so many years, I spent time just every Christmas, because he died right around Christmas time. I would read those 2 letters and I would try to figure out what he was trying to say, because there was some differences in the 2 letters that you could tell he was trying to say something, but you couldn't quite figure it out. And I never figured it out. And so I held on to those for a long time, along with his pictures and everything. And I just have the 2. My sister got the majority of the pictures. Then when my sister passed away in 2019, I'd taken a trip out 2 years prior, went out there to go see her. I hadn't seen her in a few years since I moved to Idaho. Went out to see her. Everything was great. She was fine. She's very much like me, puts on a smile, a happy face. She doesn't want anybody to know when she's hurting. She was on again, off again with boyfriends, on again, off again with use of marijuana. She drank on again, off again. And I will never forget the day in 2019, my parents were out here visiting. They always come around June 16th is my son's birthday. So they always came around there for a whole week. The day after my son's birthday is obviously Father's Day that year. And I remember my stepdad vanished from the living room, and he just was pacing outside on the phone for a while. And me and my mom were sitting in the house. And at the time, my husband at that time, my son's dad, had come home early from work, and that never happens. And he sat in the recliner and just didn't say a whole lot. And I could tell something was going on. So I walked outside, walked out the back, and my dad was on the phone, and he turns to me and he's like, just, go away, go away. And I looked at him and I said, no, what is going on? Something's going on. He's like, just give me a minute. And he got off the phone and he looked at me and he's like, your sister killed herself last night. And I just was in shock. I didn't even know what to say. I didn't know how to feel. And I was like, oh my God, my mother, she's here. She's going to lose it. I don't know what we're going to do. So we walked back in the house and pretended like everything was okay for the moment. But then as soon as he told my mom she lost it, then I had to become the strong one for her. I tried to help her through it and talk her through it, try to console her. My then husband was trying to be there for me because I couldn't cry. I was put on this strong front, but I didn't want to cry because I didn't want to take away that moment from her being the mother of my sister. So I didn't really grieve or have time to mourn at that point. They got everything in order, and then they packed up and left the very next morning. And then they started making plans for the funeral, obviously. So that was hard for me because not only is Father's Day already hard because of my dad.
Yeah.
Then I have my son's birthday. Now I have my sister's death, and they all streamlined together ever since 2019. I had made a choice that year to tell my parents, you are no longer allowed to come out here in June at all, or even the beginning of July. I can't do it. So they came out for a couple more years after that until I cut ties with my mom completely, which we talked about in the first podcast for various reasons, and we haven't spoke since. But I will tell you, my sister, she was in a relationship, which we'll get into this later, of the warning signs and things that can cause suicide. My sister had attempted suicide 3 or 4 times. She tried to OD on Tylenol one time. She tried to OD on a prescription medication. She tried cutting herself. She tried different things. My parents had put her into a mental institution to try to get her help. She did everything right by pretending everything was great, and got herself checked out early. That's part of the care in the mental health system that I don't agree with. So anyway, she got out early, and then she had a boyfriend that she never had an easy out. She never had the weaponry, I guess, available to her. So she had a boyfriend, and he taught her how to use a handgun for protection purposes in the home. They were living together. I guess they were on again, off again, would get in arguments, this or that. And there was one night they got into an argument, and he told her, you need to pack your stuff and get out. And she went to go in the bedroom like she was packing, And next thing you know, she took her own life. And that one is super hard for me. She sent me a text message 2 days prior, and she sent me a voicemail that day, basically crying out for help. But what I was told is she went to work that day and she was normal. Like everything was normal. She was greeting everybody, smiling. Nobody would ever know there was anything wrong. And looking back on it, there were so many times she was crying for help, but nobody listened. Like we listened. I remember we listened, but it's hard to describe. We listened, but she had cried for help so many times, and we tried to help her, but she wouldn't listen.
Right.
I think as humans, we eventually just tune stuff out when we really shouldn't. So I've lived with guilt and shame for that for the last 6 years. It's been super hard. I remember when, after we told my mom and I had time to decompress a little bit and start to be in my guilt and denial and then just mourning period, I remember talking to one of my cousins and we all said the same thing. It wasn't a matter of like, it was a matter of when for her, to be abrupt. We knew she was going to do it at some point in her life. It was just a matter of when and how. She had so many issues that were deep rooted. She never got over my dad's death. She never admitted to the trauma that happened in our childhood, nor wanted to talk about it or deal with it. And I think that was a big problem. She had anxiety like I do. She suffered from mass depression. But she never felt validated as a human and never felt accepted. She was looking for it everywhere, but inside of herself.
Did your mom, was she close with your mom, or was it kind of the same story with you?
So that's the hard thing for me is I moved away in that relationship. That's my thing is I moved away and relationships kind of folded. My sister had a on again, off again relationship with my mother as well. And there was a time period there I got put in the middle. I was getting calls from both of them and they were both complaining about each other and it was very toxic. And I'm like, I can't do this anymore. Like, this isn't where I want to be. So my sister and mom kind of they've had a little bit better relationship than my mom and I had, but I wouldn't say it was great. It's very much, they were very, very much similar in the fact that it was pointing fingers at everybody else but themselves. And they're in such denial of what's wrong with them. They don't want to get the help, but they want to cry wolf.
Yeah. Right.
So my dad's suicide, obviously I was 5. I don't really recollect him very much. I've just heard stories, and things about him. And when his side of the family has told me things about him, it's things that are great things. They want me to remember the great things about him and the characteristics of him that I have. I am very much like my father and my sister is very much like my mother. But my sister's suicide has been really, really hard for me to deal with. I just, in the last couple of months, I would say December, I deleted her text finally. And then right around the first of the year, I deleted her voicemail. I just had to get to that point. Same thing with my dad's quote unquote suicide note. I tore it up and threw it in the trash a year ago. I couldn't, it's like, why do I want to keep making myself suffer in pain of the unknown? And I think that's the hardest thing is you don't know. Like we can put all of these preliminary thoughts or suspected thoughts in our head of why somebody did what they did or why they chose it. But at the end of the day, even if they write a suicide letter, you don't really know what actually set them off to do it. And unfortunately for my sister's boyfriend at that time, he struggled really hard with it. Well, for obvious reasons, but there comes a lot of blame, self-blame. And I think people need to remember that it's not your fault. That person chose that selfishly to do that for whatever reason. She just happened to have an easy out that day and he happened to just be there. But I think leading up to that, she had a various amount of reasons of why she chose to go that route. And I think she saw no end in sight. She saw no hope, hopelessness. And I think she felt very alone, very alone. Later, after like you share, I want you to share some of your stuff too. I'll share something personally for me as to why I can tell you that I probably know what my sister felt. And I do know when people you're close to start projecting things on you because they don't want to deal with it themselves, that is a huge sign that something's wrong. My sister called me and left me a voicemail calling me every name under the sun, told me I was the worst sister. I was, piece of crap. I didn't call her enough. I didn't text her enough. I didn't spend enough time with her. I moved away. I ruined her life. Like all these horrible things, putting the blame on me for how she was feeling, what she was dealing with. And to some degree, yes, I wasn't the greatest at one period in my life with keeping in contact with people. I kind of moved out here and wanted to start a new life. And I kind of wanted to forget the trauma and forget the mess. Yeah. So that's on me. That's something I have to deal with. But at the end of the day, she made her choice. And I can no longer choose to blame myself for her choice because I didn't inflict it on her. I didn't tell her to do it. I know her and I both, when we were younger, we dealt with a lot of bullying. And then of course we had our childhood trauma. And I just think there was a lot there to unpack. So anyways, if you want to share a little bit about yours, hi, Tim. If you want to share a little bit about yours, and I'll share my really personal thing, and then we'll get into some statistics that I pulled from both state and national. And then I really want to delve deep into veteran suicide today because I have quite a few veterans that follow me on my page, and they've really made some great comments to me about veterans. So.
Before I get into my dealings, I do want to ask, did your sister blame you, was she jealous that you moved away and you were starting a new life and she felt like she couldn't do that? But I mean, I'm assuming she was jealous that you got away from all of the BS and she didn't.
I mean, I think I sensed some jealousy there the last time I saw her. I'd offered for her to move out here. I'd even at one time offered for my half brother to move out here and like stay with me and get a job till you get on your feet. Not to say anything bad about where I'm from. There's some amazing people from Clinton, Iowa, and they're doing amazing things that I went to school with, both younger and older. But there's not a lot there for you if you want to be outside of which is ironic because I live in the Twin Falls, Idaho area now. Same thing. It's like, unless you are an agriculture, farm, or factory work, you're not really going to get much outside of that. I mean, there's a little more here to offer, but in Iowa, that's what there is to offer, which I think is for most cities. It's just when you're young and you want to make something of yourself, it's not really the best situation. And she had kind of exhausted a lot of job options at that time. But before she passed, she was a CNA. So like I went to school for medical stuff. My sister was a huge empath like me, huge caring heart, loved taking care of people. And that's what scares. I mean, I've been honest with my doctor. That's what scares me is my sister was similar to me. And that makes me scared because my sister was very much an empath and huge hearted person, never showed a struggle. You could walk around with a smile on your face and you never know if there's something wrong. Like she hid it very, very well, but the people closest to her, she did not hide it very well. So yeah, that's kind of hard, but I do think there possibly could have been some jealousy there just because the last conversation I had with her when I visited her. So
right.
Picture actually.
And obviously the voicemail. I mean, that's.
Yeah, the voicemail.
I just think that's resentment that you were able to get away from all of it, and she felt like she was trapped. For whatever reason, we never know why people have, like you said, you're hard. Mm-hmm. Your heart is always going to be different than somebody else's heart, but apparently, she didn't leave. I mean, she was a grown adult. She could have left, and it's not your fault.
Yeah.
But I do feel like just listening to your story that she resented you for getting away.
Yeah. Yeah. But at the same time, I blamed myself for a long time that I should have been a better sister. I should have
Sure.
reached out more. I should have like answered the phone that day. I should have responded to her text. That's why people think I'm crazy, but I'm like, there's 2 seconds of your day is not going to ruin whatever you're in that moment. If somebody texts you, I don't
Right.
care if it's a hi, how are you doing? Like, you know, I've said this before. Hi, how are you doing? Or is everything okay? Or I love you, or thinking about you. Like, it takes 2 seconds to text back. That could be the one text that could either save someone's life or make their day better or put a smile on their face if they're having a rough time. And I so wish if I could do anything different, it would have been to reach out and respond to that text that day. It would have taken 2 seconds of my day. Instead, I was like, I'm busy at work. I don't have time for this. I'm not dealing with this BS. I got to go.
I'm the same way. I am the same. I am horrible at keeping in touch with people, especially my parents, who are in their 70s. And in fact, it's my mom's birthday today. Hi, Mom.
Happy birthday.
I know she's watching, but no, I'm horrible at doing that. And you're right. 2 seconds, just say, "Hey, I'm thinking about you," or just want to say hi, make sure you're okay.
Hi,
Can
Chris.
literally make somebody's day. Literally, just to let
Yeah.
you know that you're thinking of them. And you're right; it does not take much. But
Yeah.
nice comment we got here from Chris Drake. Welcome to the show. A wonderful and powerful lady takes an incredible person to leave themselves vulnerable to help others. That's what you do. You used to post a lot more often, but you do have a lot of posts to where you try to inspire others to get better, as we talked about last episode. And even one person seeing that is enough to say, well, she can do it, I can do it.
Yeah.
And this is another example of people follow you and people know your story and people can relate to you. But anyway, getting into my association with suicide and it's impacted not just me but my friends and my family as well. The earliest one that I can remember was a third cousin, I believe his name was Dennis. Killed himself. I don't know if it was before I was born or when I was really young, but one of my earliest memories, maybe when I was about 5 or 6, was that he had committed suicide, and I believe it was with a shotgun. And every year on his birthday, my cousin, who I always called my aunt growing up until, you know how parents always do, hey, it's actually my cousin, even though, she's 30 years older than me. Every year on her Facebook page, she'll wish her late son a happy birthday. So, I mean, even to this day, 40 something, 50 years later, it doesn't go away, and
Yeah.
it never will go away. But that was the first, as a child, that I ever heard of anything like that. And then later on in life, I was going to opening day at a Buffalo Bills game, and it was, oh God, what year? 2004. Yeah, opening day 2004. Was going with some friends at work when I still lived in Connecticut, 9 hours up to Buffalo to go see opening day of football. And I got a text from my mom that my uncle had committed suicide. And I won't mention his name, but he was actually ran a funeral home. So he had seen so much death over the years. I can't imagine what that would do to somebody, having to take care of somebody's loved ones and get them ready for the last time they're going to see somebody. I don't know the circumstances under why he did what he did, but he was older. I want to say he was in his 50s, maybe 60s. Let me see if I can look at his obituary. Yeah, he was middle aged. My stepdad still can't really talk about it that much. We don't really talk about it. He was my uncle through marriage. But unfortunately, several years later, my stepdad's nephew also committed suicide, and he was young. I want to say he was in his maybe early 20s. So having his uncle and then his nephew do that, within a 10-year period is, it's enough for anybody
That's rough. Yeah.
to hurt and never get over it. And then I believe it was
I thought you said
2021,
2022 or something.
2022,
Yeah.
my stepdad's father committed suicide, my step granddad, who I have known since, I'd say probably about 13 years old or so. When my parents got divorced, my mom married my stepdad. I was in my teenage years, and I went all over the place with him. They did a lot of stuff for auctions and antiquing and stuff like that. And we just hop in the van and go pick up some stuff, or, we'd watch wrestling together. We'd talk sports, and always had a great relationship with him. Didn't get to see him as much when I moved to Tennessee in 2011. But, when I came back for my 40th birthday to Connecticut, I was able to see him. He came to the party. I had a whole bunch of friends and family come up, and it was good to see him again. But I don't stay in touch with people, and I kind of regret not having a relationship with him as an adult. My fondest memories are in my teenage years. You know how life gets, especially with teenagers. We just do our own thing, right? And even in your 20s, you're just
I have an 18-year-old son that I don't see as much as I thought I would, because between being an adult now, he has a job and he drives and he has friends and a life, and it's hard. So I try to instill in him, like, make sure that I'm a priority, because you don't want to, I'm not getting any younger, and you don't want to regret it later on,
Exactly.
And I know people that, we all either have parents that live close by, or we have parents that live far away, or we have family, even same thing. You got to try to make time for them, because they're not going to be around forever. And you don't want to live with regret. You don't, trust me.
It's true, which is why I said I need to stay in better contact with my parents, because
So with this, like with all the suicides that you've experienced in your life, just because I did look up a bunch of statistics and got some back from state and national levels, were there, do you guys know their why, or were they kind of just unexpected, or there's a generalization in certain areas of the country of what's causing suicide rates to climb? So I'm just kind of curious as to your family members, if there was like anything in particular.
I didn't know the why. I possibly know the why of my step granddad. It was on his wedding anniversary, and his wife had passed away. I think 2 or 3 years earlier, maybe a little bit more. And I think he planned the whole thing out. He got all his bills in order, left everything to my stepdad, put his ID in a Ziploc bag, so when they found him, if they found him, they'd know who he was, and they could identify him and notify the next of kin. So it was premeditated. He left the lights on in his apartment and a TV, so I'm assuming his neighbors or whatever, just figured he was home, and nobody would go look for him. He went to a bridge in Massachusetts that a lot of people jump off of, which you sent me a picture of one in Idaho, I believe.
The Prime Bridge here in Twin Falls, Idaho is infamous for suicides. There's been people that have actually, so little known fact, I used to work for the sheriff's office, both in Jerome County and Twin Falls County. And that bridge is infamous for people coming to base jump with a parachute. But that's also, people travel here to commit suicide off that bridge, which it's so sad and it's terrible. And when my dad passed away, they actually put in his obituary, "Man dies by self-inflicted gunshot wound to the head." Like, that was an article. We don't see those anymore. Typically now in obituaries, most families will leave it out, but they'll put something in regards to like suicide awareness or mental health or something like that. I know somebody, not really well, but I know them through the bowling community, just lost somebody the same way the other day. And it's really sad. We had I don't know, it was a few weeks ago, a guy purposely, same kind of story, had lost his wife a year or a couple of years prior. And he drove his truck off the side of that bridge and committed suicide. We've had numerous teenage deaths, teenage suicides off that bridge or off the side of the canyon in the last couple of months. It seems to be around the holiday season, when we don't have as much sunshine and depression really hits because people aren't getting as much vitamin D. There's not as much activity going on in the winter. That's when people really need to be very cognizant of their own mental health. I know for me personally, I have to try to stay busier in the winter. Summer's easy, right? Like if you're outdoorsy, you can go to the river, go walking, go kayaking, go on a hike, go camping. People are more apt to want to go do stuff because the weather's nicer, more permissible. In the winter, though, people get stir crazy and they stay inside depending on weather. And then that's when we start seeing the rise of anxiety and depression and seasonal affective disorder. The SAD, you've heard of that, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
So, that bridge is very prevalent. Kristen said that Skyway Bridge in Florida is the same way. There's bridges everywhere that have this issue. Ours has just become famous for not just suicide, but just base jumping as well. We know like I said before, my boyfriend's a skydiver, so we know people that base jump off that bridge.
Yeah.
Look at people jumping out of a plane, and then you look at people jumping off the side of a bridge. I can't even stand on that bridge, let alone try to get up on the top of it and look off.
I have no desire to even get up there.
Yeah, I walk below it, and just the traffic it sounds like the bridge is going to fall apart, but it's not. It's a very heavy duty bridge. Well, with that, I'm very sorry to hear about all of the people that you lost in your life. I put a poll out thanks to you, we started a podcast private group. And since we started it like 2 hours ago, we have like 150 group members. That's awesome. So I put a poll out there.
It's great.
Yeah, I put a poll out there to see if people have experienced suicide loss in their life and if they haven't at all. So if you're part of the group, answer that, because I'd like to get some insight on to how many people suicide affects, because it doesn't just affect you personally. It affects the community. It affects relationships. It affects like family. I think earlier we just had like a couple of people. Oh, wow. We've got some more. So, the suicide loss thing, it's hard. Sometimes there's just no words. And then that's the other thing. Like people are like, what do I say? I don't know what to say to you. You just lost your sister. It's like, you don't need to say anything. I think people have this like preemptive thought that when somebody passes away, you have to always have the right words. So you don't necessarily need to have words. You just need to be there for somebody, like be their shoulder to cry on, be their ear to listen, be their comfort. They don't really necessarily need you to say anything because nobody's ever going to have the right words. I don't believe there's any right words when someone passes away. We all say like, my thoughts and condolences. I'm so sorry. Is there anything I can do for you to help you? Like the only thing you can do to help somebody really is listen. That's the best thing anybody could have ever done for me. So before I dive into some really eerie like statistics, they are really disheartening, like petrifying. The suicide rates just keep climbing, and it's I don't know what's going on, but I'm going to find a way to. I used to be a part of AFSP, which is the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention. I want to get back into that. I just didn't have enough time before then, but I want to get back into trying to help in some way, shape, or form, not with just our community and this podcast platform, obviously, but other ways to help, and especially veterans and young teens. Those are the numbers that I found most concerning. But personally, there's only 3 people in my life that know this story. So last summer in July, I went and participated in the TAT tournament in Las Vegas, Nevada. And that's the True Amateur Tournament. It ended on July 4th, and I took off the next day to head home. at the time I was married, and I was having a lot of issues at home and personally and just all around. And bullying was not a good time in life. Not only was I having issues, my spouse at the time was suffering from depression, and I had tried and tried and tried to help, and I couldn't. And then it started. I'm the type, I can feel others' emotions. So if somebody's feeling something, it weighs on me too. So I started having issues, but I was having issues with stability in life. I think I finally came to a point of knowing what I wanted in life and what I wasn't going to tolerate. I also was getting bullied heavily through the bowling community by certain individuals that I basically would get paralyzing anxiety just pulling up to the bowling center. I didn't want to walk in. I didn't want to lace up. I didn't want to bowl. I didn't want anything. So that tournament was kind of like my getaway, have fun, go see what I can do, hang out. It was great. I met Norm Duke. I met Tim Mack. I met the staff from CTD. Like I had a great time. I met Jacob Buttriff. I have all these pictures of all these amazing people I met while I was there. So it was awesome. The whole drive home, it was almost 9-hour drive home. I just found myself like get into the slump of like, oh my God, I have to go back to reality, and I have to go to work, and I have to deal with financial issues, and I have to deal with all these things that I didn't want to deal with. And there was a point where I felt so down and out one day that I went to work that morning, and I knew I shouldn't have went to work because I couldn't even, like, my hand and my coffee cup was trembling. I couldn't talk. I couldn't see straight. Everything was fuzzy and blurry. I couldn't keep my thoughts in process. My mind was going a mile a minute. I went to work that morning and I lasted like 2 hours. And then I'm like, I can't do this anymore. I got to go home. So some stuff happened at work, and I was basically told by my boss, like, you just go home. He was super awesome. He's like, take the day off. Don't think about this place. Go relax and get your wits about you. So I did. But it was the next day. I drove to the side of the canyon, which is called, it's a Grandview pullout. I still have a hard time going there to that pullout when I go for a long walk, which I'll be going there tomorrow, but I just can't park in a certain area. And I was parked there, and I remember calling one of my friends, my best friend, and I called her, and she was at work. And I was just hysterically bawling, like you couldn't even make out what I was saying. Mm-hmm. And she's like, sweetie, I love you. I'm at work. I can't, there's nothing I can do right now. Is there anybody else you can call to help you right now? Like she could tell I was in distress. So I happened to have a friend that's a cop, a city cop, and I was hoping he was on duty, but he wasn't. And I think the reason I was hoping he was on duty is that he would take me to the hospital and get me the help I needed. But he wasn't on duty. So what he did in turn, he sat in my car for near an hour with one of his friends sitting there waiting for him to be done talking to me. And he talked to me, and everything came spewing out that was wrong. At that point, all my vulnerability was on the table. Raw, unfiltered was on the table. There was nothing being held back because I just needed to tell somebody. And he said, look, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to follow you to your doctor's office. Where's your doctor's office? And at that time, I was so distraught. I couldn't even remember the road's name. I couldn't remember my doctor's name. I couldn't anything. So finally figured it out. He followed me there. And that doctor's office saved my life that day. That off-duty cop friend saved my life, and so did the doctor's office. I went into the doctor's office, and the doctor was not in that day, but his nurse was. And I'd just been in there a month prior to renew my anxiety medication. And she sat there and gave me some water, talked to me, gave me resources of things I could call, asked me, like, do you feel like you're in a safe spot to go home? Or do you feel like you need to go somewhere? Or do you feel like you need to get checked into the hospital and stay here a night? So we made an appointment for me to see the doctor the next day. I said, no, I'll go home. I'm safe there. There's nothing going on at home that would cause me to be unsafe, but I do need to see somebody like tomorrow. And so they gave me some medication to kind of help me settle down. And granted, remind you, I have a heart condition. So like my heart rate getting really high and having anxiety on top of it, it can sometimes feel like you're going to have a heart attack. And then you put all that on top of it, everything was through the roof that day. So they spent probably 2.5, 3 hours of uncharged time trying to get me to calm down and get me to a place where I was mentally okay to walk out. I mean, I walked in there with my sunglasses on, sobbing. But when you're in that state, I didn't even know if there was anybody around me that saw me that day. I didn't know what the waiting room looked like. I just remember the receptionist, and she looked at me like a, oh crap face. And she was awesome. She did not make it very announced that there was some kind of panic going on. She just took me back to her room very calmly and quietly and got me the nurse, and they got me the help I needed. I went and saw the doctor the next day. And for, I would say, a good 6 months, I saw him almost weekly. And they got me on the medications that worked for that time being until we weaned me off of them. Because I, like my first podcast, I told you I really don't like medications, but at that time I needed something. He got me into counseling, which helped. I've never been one that like, I'm too prideful to go to counseling. I think they do help, and there's a time and place for them, whether it be personally or in relationships or professionally. And so I got the help that I needed. And that's when I was diagnosed with CPTSD, because we did not know that a lot of my anxiety issues and all of the issues I was having with self confidence and security was stemming from childhood trauma. So we got the help that I needed, and I've been 10 million times better since. So I will never be able to thank that doctor enough. It's a local hospital here that a lot of people, I would say, rip on. They really, it's really one of 2 hospitals we have a choice to go to. But I can say I've had my fair issues with that hospital regarding my cancer. But when it came to that, they don't mess around with suicide or attempted suicide. My thing was, I don't think I was going to actually do it that day. I think I was crying for help. And it was the first time I had cried for help ever in that sense. I just felt, ironically, the same way my sister felt the last time I talked to her, very alone. Like I had no one. I'm like, I have no one to talk to. And if I talk to somebody, they're going to think I'm crazy. They're going to be like, what are you talking about? Why are you so upset about this? And why are you worried about this? And this will get better. Like that's, everyone's like, have faith. It'll get better. It'll be okay. It's like, well, sometimes in somebody's brain, they're like, it's not going to be okay. Like they're already past the point of like, I've given that hope of being okay, and they lose hope. Like I lost all sense of faith in God, faith, period, hope. I was completely hopeless. Let's put it that way. Mm-hmm. I saw no end in sight, saw no way out. Same exact things my sister told me. It was just, you've battled and battled and battled so many things through your head that you kind of just want to tap out, because you're like, I'm tired of battling. Like I'm tired of constantly thinking about the same thing and constantly being worried and constantly being in distress, constantly being in fight or flight mode. And like I said last podcast, it's that the mental aspect that people won't realize is that you try your hardest to overcome something, but it still always seems like there's just this one little thing that stays there and it just won't let go. And that's where I was at. So I was totally distraught that I don't ever want to feel that way again. I remember that morning that I went to work, that I said I shouldn't have went to work. I was in the parking lot on my hands and knees wailing, like, please, someone help me. Please, like something change. Please give me a sign that everything's going to be okay. And I'm here for a reason. I've never done that in my life. I've never gotten on my knees and prayed like that or cried or been so vulnerable to where it was like 4 a.m. I mean, I start at like 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. It's like 4 a.m. and I didn't know who was listening, but it just compounded. It's like, oh yeah, go home, take the day off. Like that's like the worst thing to do. But at the same time, I couldn't work either. Like I'm not go home and be by yourself and just think about things. No. Right. I mean, I had somebody come over and they talked to me. But once they left, the feelings just all bubbled up back to the top. It's like that melting pot I talked about last week. Eventually it bubbles up to the top and it just overspills. And then you're like, what do I do now? There's nothing I can do. It's like a pan on the oven when you have noodles and you're boiling the noodles and they boil over and you're like, oh crap. And you don't realize there's a problem until it's too late.
Yep.
That's where I was at. There was some mass amount of problems that had compiled over an amount of time that I didn't realize were problems until they got to that point. And so it just became, after counseling and I get through that, I kind of learned to stick up for myself, learn that I mattered and I had a voice, and I wasn't going to tolerate people bullying me for stupid stuff like we're in high school and we're 30, 40, 50-year-old adults. I wasn't going to tolerate people treating me like I was a doormat and they could treat me and talk to me however they wanted, and I would just deal with it because I'm Amanda and I laugh stuff off and I joke and I let stuff go and I don't hold on to things. I don't hold grudges. And I realized I need to just be myself. Like, I was so busy being what everybody else wanted me to be that it got to the point it was too much pressure. And I think I covered that on the first podcast too, like chameleonizing yourself to fit in or seeking outside validation. It gets exhausting. Like, you have to learn to love yourself, and you have to learn to accept yourself for who you are, or nobody else is ever going to. And the people that don't, they don't deserve to be in your life anyways. They're not going to bring anything of substance to your life if they don't accept you for who you are.
It's a great point.
So that was, I mean, that's my story that only a few people knew. But it's been hard for me to even talk about that. It was a really rough time in my life. I got divorced shortly after. And not necessarily because of him. It was kind of more like, I guess it was a mutual thing, but it was kind of like we grew apart. Mm-hmm. And we grew apart because of our own depression. Like, each other's depression made each other, where a couple should come together and help each other, which I tried to help him, but where you should help each other, you sometimes can, like a pulley system, pull away from each other, and then it tightens it, and then it just breaks. And that's what happened to us, unfortunately. But I've been mentally in a much better space the last, I would say, probably 7-8 months. I still struggle. You have days, like you said, there's certain dates that come up when you've experienced loss, whether it's suicide or just loss in general. It's hard. So you have dates that come up. You have to mentally get through that. Then you have the pressures of a job. You have the pressures of being, a wife or a husband or a mother. Or I had somebody earlier who's a male, and this is huge because he made the comment that the issue is asking for helps makes people look less of a man, even if they ask, no one would help because others have their own problems. But I told him, I said, that's not just related to men. I think women feel like that too. Mm-hmm. I think generally in society, we all feel like that. It's like, we don't want to ask for help because we don't want to look less of a person. If we're seen as a person who's a strong individual in the community or within our family, if we ask for help, it's going to make us look weak, or it's going to make us look less strong. And so then we get really scared or fearful to ask for help. Plus, we all know everybody else is dealing with something in their life that's in some capacity. So you don't want to feel like a burden and put it on somebody else. Like, oh, I know you have these problems, but look at mine. Then you feel like you're putting that on more onto their plate when they're already dealing with their own stuff. So I would just encourage anyone, like, kind of, you got to learn to swallow that, whether it's pride or ego or whether it's just fear. You have to learn to swallow it and reach out to somebody, because there's always somebody willing to listen. You might call 2 or 3, 4 people or reach out, and they may not respond, or they might respond with an answer you don't want. But there's going to be somebody that'll be taking time to listen. And I've always said to anybody, I'm like, if you have no one to talk to, you literally can message me, because it doesn't go anywhere. It stays with me. And I know how that is to feel. That day I felt hopeless. I felt like I had nobody to talk to, and that's not true. I had somebody. It was just getting the courage of going through my contacts list and being like, who do I know that would be least judgmental, less critical, and will just listen or will help me get the help I need? And then I called 2 people, and both people are willing to help. It's the fact that you have to just reach out and somebody will help and listen. So I always say, be a voice in your actions. So in your actions towards people, that's your voice speaking to them, whether you speak words or not. So if you know somebody needs help, or if they're reaching out to you for help, you should take the time to at least empathize with them, or be there for them so it shows that you care. And people can tell when somebody's not being genuine and when they're being fake or phony or they're pretending because they just want gossip or they want to talk. Those aren't the people to go to. And most people know who those people are in their life. So reach out to somebody and just if somebody reaches out to you, be there for them. I think, like we talked about on the first podcast, we never know what somebody else is going through in that day. So I know a lot of people personally, like they are the most bubbly, happy people. But once I've gotten to know them and they start telling me about their life or start telling me things, I'm like, I would have had no idea because you look like you got it all going on and your life is so wonderful, but it's not necessarily true all the time. So yeah, that's my little story with that.
Well, thank you. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah. But I just wanted to share a few things. So I'm going to talk about the state of Idaho for a little bit. I know we have some watchers that aren't in Idaho, but they haven't come out with the 2024 statistics yet. They come out later, 2025. So it'll probably be like September, October when they come out, I'm assuming, based off records and history of when they come out with things. So in 2023 alone, 457 Idahoans died by suicide. That was fourth highest in the nation.
Wow.
Yeah, fourth highest in the nation was Idaho. So Idaho consistently ranks in the top 6 to 10 states for suicide.
That's crazy.
To me, living here, I'm like, what? Like,
right,
we have Boise, Idaho. That's like our biggest, I mean, like the city that everybody knows the most that's big. But like, we're not these other states that have all these huge cities and all the crime. But there's crime everywhere now. Yeah. So suicide is the second leading cause of death in Idaho for ages 10 to 44.
Wow.
With that being said, ages 10 to 24 are the most prevalent on that number. That's insane to me.
Yeah.
When I read about kids that are under 16 or under 12, I'm like, what on earth could possibly be that bad at that age?
Yeah. True.
That you think of doing that. And I know bullying is a huge, huge problem. I know there's schools that I've heard of. I've seen people post it on Facebook. I've heard about it here. There's schools that faculty just they don't take bullying seriously. It's very, it's looked past a lot. I don't understand it.
Well, it's worse now with the advent of social media because back in the day, I got bullied in school. I was a tall, skinny kid. I kept to myself a lot. I had older kids on the bus that would, take my lunch money or, threaten to beat me up. And you go home, you get over it. You know what I mean? But nowadays, you got Instagram,
everywhere.
You got Facebook, you got Twitter. I mean, it never ends. You could post an embarrassing video of somebody.
TikTok too. TikTok, Snapchat. You have all these. I mean, we have so many avenues of how bullying can take place. Even as adults, I know a couple of years ago there was a girl that shared some provocative photos through Snapchat of herself to a male, and he screenshotted it and saved them, and then he was showing them off to a bunch of people and using it as a bullying blackmail tactic. And that's blackmailing is essentially bullying, in my opinion.
Yep. Right.
And that did not bode well with her mentally. So yeah, there's so many different tools, and it's not just in person where it happens, like you said,
But it's also that there's a lot of what I've noticed. A lot of kids, and especially a lot of people in their younger 20s, have no social skills whatsoever. And I think with the advent of tablets and cell phones and YouTube and reels and people, kids now aren't outside playing anymore. They're watching TV. They're on a tablet.
Yeah.
And they get desensitized because there's so much information out there, and they get overstimulated, and they don't have enough interaction with other kids anymore. And parents, will just give them a tab. I see kids out in dinner, tablet and headphones on in a restaurant. Like I look,
it's no different than an adult doing like doom scrolling. We're just scrolling. And if you watch like reels, okay. So a lot of people think these reels are funny, but there's some of these reels where they're not funny. They are funny, but they're literally picking on somebody or making fun of somebody or cracking jokes at the expense of somebody else,
like
to make
pranks
a reel, to
yeah.
get likes and comments and things, to get maybe possibly a payday off social
Mm-hmm.
media, or just get the attention. But they don't realize, like, there's that person on the other side is still a human.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, like, I'm not saying, like, don't go make funny videos, but I just think there's a tactful way to go about it where you can make stuff funny and not put somebody's mental health at risk over it.
Right.
So I don't know. But I wanted to point out one thing I found, which is nationally, there's 135 suicides per day. Like, that's a lot. I mean, when you think nationally, you're like, well, that's not a lot. Look at the population. It adds up. So in 2023, that showed that approximately 49,316 deaths total happened in the U.S. from suicide.
Wow.
So we have some of these facts that are up here that I found some really good pictures, but so suicide is among the top 11 leading causes of death in the U.S. And in Idaho alone, the suicide rate has increased by 43.2% over the past 20 years. And it doesn't seem to be disintegrating at all in numbers. It just keeps going up. So I have the warning. Do you have that picture of the warning signs of suicide? Okay.
Yep.
So that's what I was talking about. If you leave that up for a second,
sure.
There is, to recognize warning signs, there's, they call it a mnemonic, but it's actually an acronym, and it's called Is Path Warm? So I is for ideation, talk of dying or self-harm. S is for substance abuse increases, like alcohol or drugs. P is for purposelessness. They don't feel they serve a purpose. Then you have anxiety or agitation, feeling trapped, hopelessness, withdrawal, anger or irritability, recklessness, and mood swings. So if everybody kind of like watches out for that Is Path Warm, and people that you may know, they may not be necessarily suicidal, but it can lead to suicidal thoughts. And I think I've talked to enough people that we have come to the conclusion that I think at some point in time in everyone's life, they have, I wouldn't say necessarily suicidal thoughts, like, I'm going to kill myself, I don't want to be here anymore. But we all are like, can this just stop? Like, what's my purpose here? Why am I even here? And why is this happening to me? And then you think of, like, maybe the world would be better off without me, or maybe everybody else would be happier if I just go away. Like, those are all suicidal ideations or thoughts, but it's not the act upon the thought. And I think all of these Is Path Warm signs is something we all need to watch out for, because they can lead to depression and increased anxiety and increased mental health disorders or issues at the time. And if you start compiling all of those things, then it's going to spell problems down the road. So if we can catch it early on with people, especially if it's people you know that or that you're close to, and you start recognizing these, or it becomes a pattern, maybe sit down and have an honest conversation with the person. They may not want to talk about it at first. And I wouldn't say bring it up to them on such a consistent basis that they get annoyed with it or irritated, because that'll make things worse. But just bring it up once, let them sit on it and ponder it if they don't want to talk. And then maybe try it again another time, and maybe they'll open up. Like I said, a lot of people's thing that they struggle with the most is fear of being judged, or fear of someone going and talking to somebody else about their problems, or somebody doesn't want to listen, or nobody's going to be there for them. So if we can get past that, it'd be a lot better. And I'm also would like to encourage any parents that do listen to this or are listening to preload the 988 number in your children's phones and have an honest conversation with them about what the number is and what it's used for. What they found is a lot of younger I should say younger adolescent and older generation over 65, when they get distraught or they can't recall things because they are so distraught, or they're in a sense of fog, they can't remember the number to dial for help. Even though they've minimized the number to 988, there's still people that can't remember it. I can tell you last summer, I probably wouldn't have remembered it either with how distraught I was. So if we could all preload it into our phone and have honest conversations about the use of it and what it's for, if somebody does get into that, state of mind, they at least have the 988 number to call. And the 988 number is very beneficial. I saw Kristen made a comment about they're taking away funding from many suicide prevention hotlines. I have not heard anything about that. I'd be interested to know why or how we could help to prevent that, because that is a number that is needed. It does make a difference. Just somebody else listening sometimes is not all that's needed. Sometimes people want somebody that they don't know to listen because they'll be a little bit more apt to share because they know that person they're not going to run into them in the grocery store. Yeah, that's Idaho alone. That's what I was talking about earlier. So I just highly suggest if you're worried about somebody, I would check on them and ask direct questions to them. If you notice somebody's acting out of character, if they're saying things different, if they start picking up habits they normally wouldn't do, or doing habits more than they would, or if you just get a sense, sometimes you get a sixth sense that something's off with somebody. Like I told you, Rob, yesterday was short and text with you. I was having a kind of an anxiety-ridden day, and when that happens, I kind of shut down and shut out. And the people that know me well, they check in, and I had a few check in. They're like, "You seem a little off today." So unfortunately, my business, where for work, I have to deal with people, and some of them
all day long.
Yeah, I've been delivering to them long enough. They know me, and I can walk through the door, and I'm one of those people. My face says everything. Like I can't hide how I feel. My face will give it away. So they can be like, "Are you okay?" I'm like, "Yeah." "No, you're not." Something's wrong. Sometimes I wish I could trade my face off. But anyway, so I wanted to point out, I have a lot of statistics, but they're things that are important because I don't think people realize how prevalent suicide is and how it's not decreasing, it's increasing. And there's such a stigma around suicide, and I don't know how we get past it. I don't know how much more we can do to help people other than be there for people. And I think we get so wrapped up and so caught up in our days of work and family and like you said, everything being busy, and we forget to reach out to people. But I think we need to be very aware that how we, like I said, let your voice be your actions, because I think how we treat people says a lot. That smile you give somebody today could be the one smile I got from anybody all day, and it can make a difference. So always try to be that kind, nice person. I'm not always perfect with that. I'm very much have my days where I just don't want to talk to anybody. I don't want to be around anybody, and that has nothing to do with them. But I'm at fault too. I could do way better. I think we all could do way better. But with that being said, I found this statistic that is wild. So it said cities with highest suicide rates for 2025. So they already have this statistic out just for this last 7 months. So the cities are Reno, Nevada, Colorado Springs, Colorado, Juneau, Alaska, Missoula, Montana, and Billings, Montana. So I'm like, that's weird. Like, what? That's all like West Coast, it doesn't make any sense. So then I was like, well, why is that? It's social isolation. So these people live in desolate areas with not much population. There's not much to do. They're kind of just out there. We have higher firearm ownership. So a lot of, if you look at those are states where people either they carry firearms, or it's like Montana. Okay. You have hunting, you have ranchers, they have firearms, you have hunters. Yep. Economic hardship. So of course, that's going to be a thing too, where people are financially struggling and they feel like there's no ends to the means and they can't get out of whatever debt they're in. They've gotten themselves so deep in a hole that they don't see any end in sight. And right now, the economy or lately, the economy in the last couple of years has not been helping some people's situation either. And then we have environmental factors such as high altitude. I did not know this, but high altitude, some research links show there's increased depression and suicide risk with altitude. So Colorado Springs, Colorado, you have higher altitude. So, and then you throw in snow and nasty winter and anything else. Now you're just doubling up on problems. So I just found that really interesting that those were the cities and states that are experiencing the highest suicide rates for 2025 right now. It's kind of scary.
Well, I get that, especially the whole altitude thing. Lack of oxygen to your brain. Obviously, your brain's not functioning.
Yeah, that's what the research is linking it to is lack of oxygen to the brain.
And then Reno. I mean, have you been to Reno? I mean,
yeah, I've bowled many women's and opens tournaments in Reno, and it's not somewhere I'd want to live. No offense to anybody that lives in Reno, but I wouldn't want to live there.
Why they put a national bowling stadium there? I don't get
it. Beautiful. I bowled my best I've ever bowled.
Oh, the stadium's great, but outside of that,
it's
other than the casinos and all that, no, I have no desire there. And again, you're right. Remote, desolate areas, like Montana and the Dakotas and even Idaho. I mean, just in Alaska. What are you gonna do in Alaska? It's cold all the time. Like, you make babies, and that's about like what else do you do with your time? I'm trying to make light of it, but no, it's true. Like the desolate areas, what else are you gonna do? There's nothing other than go out and hike or hunt. How much hiking and hunting can you do for your whole life? Yeah. So I get it. I totally get it.
I just saw this comment from Chris about bullying as an unwanted negative attention that inhabits emotions. So yes, when I've been bullied, it has nothing to do with physical. It's all to mess with my head. Like these bowlers would bully me for what I wore. They'd bully me if I bowled bad. They'd bully me because I would bring 6 balls to league, or they would bully me because I dressed like I was bowling a tournament and I'm at league. And I never understood why. Sorry, my fingernails are really bad. I never understood why, but I had to get to the point where it's on them. Like somebody's like, say something to them. Like, don't let them talk to you like that. I'm like, what good is it going to do me? Because they're either going to continue to do it, or it's just going to bring light to that, which is what they want. They want me to bring light through chaos. I'm not going to do that. So I'm just going to let them say what they want. But for the longest time, there were a few times I was bullied, and I would go home crying in my car. Yeah. And I would feel like the biggest piece of crap and wanted to quit bowling. And I got to the mental state that I thought about quitting bowling because of these people. And it's like, why am I going to give them the light that they want because they just feel like being mean? So I got to the point over the last, few months when I've taken the summer off to kind of rethink about that. And it's like, that's on them at the end of the day. I'm not going to let somebody ruin my sport or my hobby because they want to be buttholes. Yep. That's not fair. I've spent too much time, too much energy, so much dedication to something I love doing. That it's not, if you love doing something and it's your hobby and it's your passion, I say, keep doing it. Let the bullies be bullies, or let the people be however they want to be. If they want to be rude and they don't want to, share the joy in your hobby, they don't want to empower you by cheering you on or supporting you, then like I said before, those aren't the people that you need in your life. You surround yourself with the people are there for you, and then just let them go and sit and be in the peanut gallery. Because if we always listen, if we spend time listening to what everybody else has to say all the time, all of us would be miserable humans, because there's always somebody that has something to say about something or somebody.
Yep.
And 9 times out of 10, you're going to have somebody on a daily basis that probably has something negative to say, and you're never even going to hear about it. It's those ones that you do hear that hurt the most. So I think with the bullying thing, again, it's not just the adolescents that are experiencing it. It's just society as a whole. And I do think that social media in general and all the platforms that we have, they have their purpose. But like I've said before, we're kind of doing a disservice to ourselves by giving light and shedding light onto these people that are doing stuff intentionally to cause harm. So try to make the world a little bit of a better place by not taking part in it so much. That's like if I run across a post or a reel or something on TikTok now that I'm like, that's to me, I'm like, that's not even funny. That's mean. Like I will scroll right past it. It won't get
And a lot of it isn't real life either. People just do dumb stuff. Like it's not their life.
Yeah.
Like it's not real life. Obviously they're making things, even if it's positive things like, kids videos, like getting a whole bunch of toys and, their kids play with, like, that's not real life. Either one, you're getting sponsors and they're sending you stuff, but like, people, there's a channel on YouTube my daughter watches called Unspeakable. And they just do dumb stuff, like just a bunch of, dudes that get together and do weird stuff, like fill their whole room with Jello or, put a whole bunch of trampolines in their house and they're jumping off their banisters and all. Like that's not real life, but kids love it, right? Like kids love that stuff and they want to see it, but they don't realize like these guys do it on purpose. Number one, most importantly, is to make money because they know they're going to get millions of subs and views and all that. And like, we get so lost in watching other people's lives that one, it's a little bit of a getaway just to get away from your own problems and all that. But number two, whatever you see on social media like that or reels, it's not true. It's not real life. It's something that's organized and scripted and written out.
Mindless entertainment.
Mindless entertainment. Yeah, it is. And getting back to the bullying, I'm a wrestling guy. So whenever we talk about bullying and stuff like that, there's a term called selling or registering. If a bully is going to say what they say to you, you don't sell it. You don't register it. You don't even give them the time of day. You just let it go. Yeah. And eventually they'll give up because, like you said, they want the attention. They want you to clap back. And if you don't, what do they got? They got nothing. If you refuse, if you're stonewalled and you don't say anything to them or you act like it didn't bother you at all, then it'll just go away. It's just, it is a feeling about power and being able to dominate somebody either mentally or physically. And obviously they're doing it because they have some kind of trauma of their own. Something happened to them where they broke along the way and they feel like they have to make fun of others to make themselves feel better. That's literally all but bullies are. So in a sense, it sucks what they're doing to you, but being empathetic and trying to put yourself in their shoes. Well, all right, well, why did they say that to me? Why are they going out of their way to say something to me or bully me or do something? Something had to happen to them. So you got to kind of feel bad for them too. And, like as a Christian, turn the other cheek, pray for them. Obviously it's hard. It's not always the easy thing to do, but it is the right thing to do. Yeah. Say, you know what? That person picked on me today at bowling for something I wore or being a backup bowler or whatever. Pray for them. Add them to your prayer and say, Lord, you know what's bothering them. I don't. Try to work it through with them. Try to help them be a better person. And that's
so interestingly enough, there was a sweeper tournament I went to, or it's just like a weekly challenge tournament, whatever. And I drove to this center that is about 45 minutes away to participate. And I walked in and this little group, one of them made a comment loud enough for me to hear on purpose. And I was already in a mood that day. I wasn't having a good day. It's just, so I picked up my stuff and I took my bowling shoes off and I said, not doing it. I'm leaving. So at that point, I thought I was being the bigger person and being better because I left. And I'm like, they can do whatever they want. I'm going to be the bigger person. I'm just going to leave and let them have their day. But in retrospect, I let them win.
That's what they wanted.
So when I think back to that day, I let those bullies win. What I should have done was just stayed there and did my own thing and got tunnel vision and left them alone and let them not even have given it a second of attention. And they probably wouldn't have done or said anything again that day.
Yep,
but me consistently giving it attention to them, letting them know I heard you, like me getting upset, me almost crying, like on a consistent basis, almost weekly or every other week throughout the last season. I let them win all season, to the fact that this year I'm not even going to that center anymore. And if I do, it's on a totally different day. But it's one of those things where I've now looked back on it and realized like I actually forgave them for bullying me, because forgiving them has allowed me to grow as my own person, to realize like their thoughts and opinions on me don't matter as much as I thought they did, because they don't know me well enough to even conjure up any type of opinion on me. They only know traces of what they've heard or things that they've seen or whatever it is. I don't know, but they
If
don't
they
know.
watched our first show,
Oh
maybe
yeah.
maybe they would think a little bit
Maybe they would
differently.
change their mind. Maybe. I don't know. But like you said, it could be something with them that's happened to them. And if it's not me, maybe it'll be somebody else. So
True.
I don't know. But for me, I had to learn to forgive them. So I could just move forward and realize like I'm living my life for me, and I know who I am, and whatever they're saying is, they don't know me at all. And so their opinion shouldn't matter. I don't go home to them at the end of the day. I don't sit at a table and eat with them. I don't call them or text them. I don't work with them. So really at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter what they have to say. But anyways, on to the next thing. The last thing I wanted to talk about tonight is veteran suicide. I have a really soft spot for veterans. My dad was a veteran in the Navy. So I have probably a pretty good following of veterans on my Facebook, because I know every Veterans Day, my Facebook's just flooded with veterans just posting pictures from when they served. So thanks for the service from every veteran out there that's listening. I know I've had a few message me today. So with that being said, in 2022, I couldn't pull up anything any more recent since then. I don't know why that is. But we had 6,407 veterans died by suicide. That's the second highest year on record for veteran suicide. And I started thinking, I was talking to my boyfriend, I'm like, when was COVID? And then I was like, when did COVID end? And I'm like, oh, 2022, like when people are starting to get back into things and things started happening. So I'm not saying that that's a direct correlation, but that's just one thought I have, is that maybe when things started to take a turn in the world, that could have been it. I don't know. That's scary.
It is.
That's really, really, that's scary. And it's very, very sad. That really tugs at my heartstrings. So 34.7 per 100,000 veterans, more than double the rate in non-veterans for suicides. So the veteran suicide made up 34% of suicides in the US. That's crazy. So the VA, I struggle with this one, because I've had a few people, and I had somebody today that have kind of told me how the VA treats them as veterans. Of course, I think they can do better. But they're known to medicate and isolate. So they love to medicate their veterans and then isolate them off and think that that's going to solve the problem. And it's not. We can't just throw medications at people and think that that's going to solve our problem. A lot of times these veterans, especially the men, so they're not known to cry or break down or shed tears or share their emotions with people. Okay. They're supposed to be the providers and protectors and seek and destroy, right?
Right.
So typically men don't want to reach out for help. So there's this huge stigma with reaching out for help when you know you're having a mental health crisis or a mental health issue. So men make up the majority of the suicide rate in the veterans more than the females do. We need to work on trying to stop the stigma on men asking for help. It definitely does not make you look weak to ask for help. Shedding a tear or showing emotion doesn't make you weak. It actually shows you're human, and it will actually show you how strong you are to ask for help. I have a couple of friends in particular that no matter how many times I say, I'm here for you, you can reach out, I'll talk to you, tell me what's going on, like I'm a safe place for you to talk, They absolutely will not tell me what's going on. And every single one of them are veterans. And every single one suffers from PTSD.
Yep.
They've either served multiple deployments or they come back, their relationship's distraught. It's in strain, or they lose their relationship when they come back. So that got me to thinking, and I started looking up why veterans have a higher rate of suicide. It's the PTSD, depression, anxiety, increased substance abuse. They have moral injury. So moral injury is like profound guilt for what they've done overseas or serving our country in general, or violation of their core values. That's moral injury. And that, I mean, if you're in the service and you come back home after fighting for your country and you see and do things that morally are not right to you and you're not okay with it, but you stepped up to the plate to fight for your country, it can, I mean, I used to think, oh, you're fighting for our country. You know what you're signing up for. Like, why do you have such a problem? But I couldn't imagine what those guys see or what they go through. Or
there's a difference between thinking about it and actually walking it and doing it.
And so I think Chris had made a comment about law enforcement officers, and that is very much true. I think veterans and law enforcement officers, any job that requires you to see like incomprehensible things or take action upon things.
See the worst in people.
Yes, it can definitely cause problems. I've known a couple of detectives that I used to work with, or were a detective for another state. They have a lot of mental anguish. They see a lot of things, like you said, death, like, you know, the funeral home guy, they see a lot of death, and they see that they have to go deal with the families after the death. They have to try to solve cases. We as a society, I don't think we realize that some people's jobs, like my job, I don't have any of that. But then there's other people's jobs that they deal with things that are significantly more traumatic than
sure. I mean, imagine. we can watch true crime podcasts.
Yeah.
But what if you're the detective who actually went through it? Like, you have to relive that, and you were there. Took, you're the crime scene forensic guy that took the pictures of a bloody scene. Like,
well, for instance, I don't want to butcher his name, but the Kohlberg that just got sentenced to life for killing the 4 up in northern Idaho. He did some very, very sick things. And I couldn't imagine being a detective on that case or even working on that case, period. I mean, that's why a lot of jobs, I think it should be a requirement. Like my job doesn't offer any benefits. I have to go get my benefits on my own. And believe it or not, with as much as I pay for my medical insurance, I have no benefits when it comes to mental health help or mental health counseling. So if you have a job that offers professional help when you're going through something, I would extremely urge you to take it up and I guess use it, because some of us don't have that. And I wish I could. The free services, I'm talking about like free mental health services. But I think a lot of the veterans and like law enforcement people, like we were talking about, I don't think that they have the offer, but I don't know how much they use it. And if it's kind of one of those things where it's the stigma around mental health awareness and mental health help. But yeah, so another thing that I've been told veterans deal with, which we all know, they deal with like the traumatic, some of them deal with traumatic brain injury, so TBIs. Then they have chronic pain. Their bodies are the wear and tear of being overseas and fighting for a country, or say they do get shot in war, they have injuries they have to sustain for the rest of their life and deal with that. And that compounds as you get older.
It's true.
So with that being said, veterans, they tend to, it's either a couple of years once they come back from the service, that they experience suicide loss, or it's down the road as they get older and they age, because their bodies are so deteriorated and they have so many ailments that it just gets to the point that they can't really they can't cope with it anymore. And they're tired of taking medications and going to doctor's appointments. But so the declining health part of it, and like I said, the relationship strain, and then the matter of hopelessness. So I think the hopelessness for them, from what I've gathered, is they go overseas and they fight for their country, or they serve time in the military, or whatever they're doing in the branch of armed forces for the U.S. They have a sense of purpose. And when they come home, sometimes they don't have that sense of purpose. Now they're going back to a job. They're trying to find a job, or, to still provide for their family. Or if they come back and they lose their family, and then they're trying to look for a job, or they don't have to look for a job, then they're either losing, they've already lost their sense of purpose because they're not in war. And then they are losing more sense of purpose because they're losing their family, or they don't have a job to come back to, or they have family that something's changed since they've been gone. I know a certain guy in particular, he came back, his wife had cheated on him. She asked for a divorce. She had their baby when he was overseas, because she was like 8 months pregnant when he got deployed. And then he came back, his job, they had laid everyone off, so he came back to no job. So he had all this stuff going on all at once. And I remember when he reached out to me and I said, you need to get some help. And he had been to the VA, like, I don't know, half dozen times. And he's like, they won't help me. They just keep giving me pills. They're like, oh, you're depressed. Oh, you have anxiety. Oh, you're depressed. And he's like, no, I am, but I need more help than just that. And he actually was reaching out for help. And there wasn't a lot of resources out there, and he already felt alone. So he got to the point where he was pulling at strings to talk to whoever he could to get help. And thankfully, he got help. He went in and got some help from a psychiatrist, and found out he has severe PTSD. So now he has triggers. 4th of July, he has to wear like earmuffs that he cannot hear anything. He is on medication, but he makes sure he stays busy, and he has ways of coping. And thankfully, he got the help he needed, and he's still here. I can't say the same for everybody.
Right.
Just the statistics alone, if people would look up things, you'd be astounded at. I mean, we see suicides here or there. People talk about them, or somebody loses somebody, but it's really sad on a daily basis how many people are dying by suicide. And I think the ones that, for me, that infuriate me the most are the veterans, because I think we have the lack of help for what they need. And then the young adolescent kids, because no kid, I mean, as an adult, we have ways of dealing with hardship and challenges. And we do hit breaking points where we're like, when is it going to end? Like, it's just been nonstop, But kids should not ever have a reason to even think about that path, or even want to attempt or act upon, or have any kind of thought like that going through their head. I remember when I was a kid, with everything that happened in my life, that never once crossed my mind.
Same.
And I think the reason is because I had experienced it in my life. So I didn't want to, when you've experienced it in your life, you don't want to put that on everybody else around you. I always say it's a permanent solution for a temporary problem or a situation that can be aided.
Yeah.
So last summer, when I was, on the ledge, the biggest thing that kept me from actually doing it and crying out for help was my son. Because you start to think, what are you going to leave behind? How is it going to affect not just your family, your immediate family, but your friends, your coworkers, your community, all the people that you know? It affects everybody. It's not just the immediate family. It affects everybody. Anybody who's ever had contact with you or knows you, it's just not I don't even like when somebody, I wouldn't say jokes about it, but when somebody, I guess, kind of acts upon it or threatens it, because even just the threat of it it's compounding to somebody like me mentally. It takes me to a place of just like freak out mode, like, oh my gosh. And then you start thinking, like, would that person actually ever really do that? Because my sister, like I said, she had threatened it for so many years, and then attempted 3-4 times. Then she eventually did it. And I said, it wasn't a matter of if, it was a matter of when. Those are the kind of people that we really need to make sure that we're that we're paying attention to all the warning signs. I wish if I could go back, I would have paid closer attention to the warning signs. We can say if all we want, but
Sure.
you can't change what's already happened. So I just want people to really be self-aware, because nobody knows us better than ourselves. And we can try to put that fake persona out there all we want, but we are the ones that really know ourselves genuinely inside. So I think we need to be a little bit more honest with ourselves at the end of the day and say, look, like yesterday, I have a habit of isolating myself. I just went to lunch with a friend a couple weeks ago and she's like, you need to stop doing that. You need to reach out when you need help. And I'm like, but I don't do that. I just isolate. But it didn't help me. Honestly, I should have reached out to somebody. It didn't help me. I just sat there in my own thoughts and had a day, and it didn't make anything better. Matter of fact, it made it worse.
Yep.
Until I did finally talk to somebody, and then I was better. So sometimes it's just that little bit of, like, whether you want to call it venting or spewing at the mouth or I don't know, or just talking to somebody in some way, shape, or form that you either trust or, you can be vulnerable with, and I'll stay with them. And I think that's maybe that compounds the situation too, because so many people are untrusting. I know for me, I trust very few people, and I know there's people out there who trust nobody. So when you feel like you trust nobody or you trust very few, it's going to compound the situation even more for you not to want to reach out to anybody. So that's why that 988 number it's very crucial that people remember, like, you might not think you have anybody, but you have at least that. And it does, they do help. So, and again, like we talked about in the first episode about reaching out to medical professionals, not everybody believes in doing that, but I can tell you, for me personally, it saved my life. I would do that again if I had to, in a heartbeat. So, but yeah, for veterans, I just wanted to point out that the veteran suicide rate, I don't know what it is the last 2 years. I couldn't get the stats from the VA, but 2022 is a very, very significant year for suicide when you're talking about it being the second highest year ever in history for suicides among veterans. I don't even know how to explain that, or what we can do to change the system or to get our veterans more help, and the help that they need and deserve. They fought for our country, and I think we're doing very little for how much they've done for us.
Agreed.
So, anyways, that's just food for thought. But yeah, I guess, like, this episode's been, we'll have a more lighthearted one next week.
Yeah, it's not always going to be doom and gloom when it comes.
This episode's been a little bit hard, but I would just encourage everyone, if you have children, to talk to them and
stay present in their lives.
And don't let them get lost in the electronics. I know for me, I limited my son's time with electronic use when he was younger, but now he's 18 and on his own, he's full-fledged using electronics as much as possible. So anyways, but yeah, so I think just be more self-aware and be aware of your surroundings, be aware of the people around you. We get lost in the hustle and bustle of everyday life, and we just forget to really pay attention to people's demeanors. They can change. So there's a difference between if somebody's had a hard day and it's been stressful at work or with the kids, or, stay-at-home moms, they're home all day with kids or taking care of the house or doing errands or doing chores, and people don't see that as a job, but it's a job. It is a job. Yeah. And so I think we need to pay attention to those people too. And especially, I know for me, in the winter, really need to make sure that we really hone in on paying attention to our own needs and wants, and make sure that we're taking care of ourselves, because if we don't take care of ourselves, we can't take care of anybody else, right?
That's right. Talk to somebody. Yeah. Let go of your pride, let go of your ego. If you know you're down, if you realize you're depressed, if you can't find any joy in your life, just talk to somebody. If you don't have any friends or family, again, call 988. Somebody will listen to you. And like you said, venting. I call it venting because it literally is letting out the steam. Like you said, it's building up like a pressure cooker. You got to take that lid off. Or turn the valve and let the steam out of the pressure cooker, because it'll explode at some point. And that's not what we want to happen.
Yeah.
There's two things that I say, and my wife says it too. We tell our daughter all the time. There's only two things, or you can only control yourself. You can't control anybody else. You can control how you react to it, but you can't change people.
Yeah.
And two, you talked about your 10%. There's something that, as a wrestling guy, Diamond Dallas Page always teaches people. Life is 90% of what happens to you and 10% of how you react to it. Live your life at 10%. Because again, you can only control yourself. You can't control what people do to you or say to you. You just control how you react to it. And if you learn how to react to it positively or blow it off, don't even think twice about it. Again, don't give the bullies any power. Just ignore them, and it'll go away eventually. And if they don't go away, well, then that's when you have to deal with it. But they want you to leave the bowling alley. They want you to have a bad day. And I would suggest to you, I know you said you didn't want to go back to that center on that day. I would. If you can find, if you can come to a point to where you can deal with it, do your thing. Don't pay attention to anybody else. Do your own thing. Let them show that it doesn't bother you. Smile at them, laugh at them, whatever. Just walk away. It may help you.
And I think that
may help you get over that too.
Like we talked about the sportsmanship on the other podcast I was part of, but like that's the other thing is you're going to have it in any sport or hobby that you take part of. There's always going to be that one person or that group that has to be the bullies. It's just like in school, and that's in the movies. We watch movies where there's bullying that happens, it's part of the movie depicting what school is like. So it happens everywhere. I think we just have to be better humans of how to deal with it or how to move forward from it and not take part in it and not be a part of it. So not be a part of it, be apart from it. So
good.
Yeah. So anyways, but yeah, so I hope this was an enlightening podcast to people or helps somebody finally get, like I said, feel empowered to reach out and ask for help if you've been struggling. As like I said, I'm always available by message if somebody needs to message. We started that Facebook group that's private. That's a safe place for people to share things or talk about things or, share positive things that they want to share for the day to help other people out. It's not just something for me and Rob to post on. It's other people to share. And then, like I said, my thing with the whole podcast itself is I just want a safe space for people to feel welcomed. And to realize that they're not alone. And there's people out here like me and Rob that have a history, and we're very accepting of being raw and unfiltered with people. So maybe it will help other people to be more comfortable with reaching out and asking for help or learning to be themselves and being accepting and not so caught up in what everybody else is thinking. Because at the end of the day, none of us are perfect. We all have made mistakes. We're going to continue to make mistakes, and we're all constantly learning. I always say the only constant is change.
That's true.
Yeah.
And there's nothing to do about it. Change is inevitable.
Yeah, it is inevitable. So anyway, so I just hope with this podcast we inspired somebody or we gave you a better outlook into what the stigma is surrounding mental health. And then maybe some statistics that help with suicide. They'll encourage you to help in some way, shape, or form in your community, or even nationally. Get on board with a foundation or an association that can help. I do know this year I'm going to try to focus on getting something done with the local school system here, see what they have going on. We just lost 2 teens in the last 3 months off the bridge from the same high school. One 17 and one was 13. So that's too young. And for me, it's really difficult when I walk across the bike path and under the bridge and you see flowers and signs and pictures of these kids. Their families are devastated. And it's really hard to see that. So anyways, if anybody has any questions or comments, feel free to reach out to Rob and I via either a message or just comment on the YouTube page, or you can email us. Is it resetandrisepodcast.com?
Resetandrisepodcast@gmail.com.
Gmail.com. Okay, I'll get it one of these days.
And you can find us on Facebook. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and I think, next week we're going to lighten up the mood a little bit on the podcast. I haven't really solidified something yet, but I have something in the works. So we'll see what goes on with that. But anyways, I hope you guys all enjoyed the podcast tonight and got something from it. And, just be a voice for other people and your actions towards them. That's all I could ever ask for. And
let us know what you think of the show. You can always please like this video, subscribe to our YouTube channel, leave comments to help us get through the algorithm. So likes and comments are big. Even if you just say, "Hey, I love the show," or just anything, just literally just help us out, help us get through it, because it's hard. There's a lot of content out there, but we hope you enjoy it. If you want to listen to the audio version of this podcast as well, it's available on all major podcast apps: Spreaker, Spotify, iTunes, iHeartRadio, Podchaser, literally anywhere you listen to your Podcast Addict. If you just want to listen to us on the go, definitely subscribe to us. My daughter just ran into the room. Looks like good timing because we're about to wrap it up. And yes, leave us a 5-star review on iTunes as well. That definitely helps us get through the algorithms on Apple Podcasts and iTunes. And you want to say hi? No, I didn't think so. It's bedtime, isn't it? Yeah. Her mother probably sent her. Yeah. Her mom probably sent us up here. So, again, we hope you enjoyed this show. I know it was a bit of a downer, but if it helps one person, that's exactly what we're here for. Again, reach out, talk to somebody. Suicide is the most selfish decision you could ever make, because again, it doesn't affect just you; it affects many, many people, and that's just something that you don't want to do. Number one, life is too short. You got to try to enjoy it somehow. And there's not much else we can say to that. It's nobody ever really wants to talk about it. But as we've seen here tonight and on Facebook, that it impacts everybody. Everybody that I know has dealt with it in one way or another. Yeah. And we just don't want you to go down that same path. So again, reach out to us, reach out to anybody. Call 988. Somebody will listen to you. And don't feel ashamed, because we all go through it. Well, Amanda, I appreciate you as always. You can also follow Amanda on Instagram at backupbowler83. You can follow the show on Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook. Reset and Rise to the Unbreakable with such a long Reset and Rise podcast on all social media platforms. And you can email us at resetandrisepodcast@gmail.com. Until then, guys, we will see you next week. We hope you enjoyed this episode.